is very depleted. So yeah, I'm hoping I did this really cool production of Christmas Carol, I guess 2019, that was supposed to be a seasonal thing that, you know, they intended to come back every year. So I'm hoping that comes back. That would be really nice. And that was actually a really nice musical gig. It was shockingly. It was like 2 months and change. Yeah.
This Shabbat, we gather in the garden and online through our live stream, having had a variety of very different weeks. I know that for Alexa Dorf and her family, they are eagerly anticipating tomorrow morning as she becomes bat mitzvah and ready to celebrate. I know that many of us are here with heavy hearts, both because of loss in our own community, the tragic funeral we had right here just yesterday, and of course, thinking about what's going on over in Israel. And yet, we're also in our final countdown to Shavuot, those last steps of the climb back up Mount Sinai. And on Sunday night, we'll gather in our sanctuary with 21 young confirmands, 10th graders who have been studying all year and are going to share their beautiful Torah with us. We hold all of that together as we gather tonight. And so whether you're coming from a week of great joy or great grief, as we look at the things in the world that we know we can't do anything to change, we do know this, that all of it is better when we come together, that we need one another, that we need Shabbat, and that we all need to just put more love into this world. So let's do that together tonight. Olam chesed yibaneh, yadadai, dai, yadadai, Olam chesed yibaneh, yadadai, yadadai, Olam chesed yibaneh, yadadai, Olam chesed And so even during dark weeks, especially during dark weeks, it is on us to kindle light. And as we prepare to light these Shabbat candles, I want to invite up Lexi and her family, Alexa, her dad John, and Bree to join her. We have very high-tech garden-proof candles these days. If you are at home, we invite you to kindle lights as we join together and bless. Baruch atah Adonai, Eloheinu melech haolam, asher kitshanu b'mitzvotav, v'tzivanu lehadlik ner shel Shabbat. Amen. Mazel tov. We look forward to celebrating with you and learning Torah from you tomorrow. Thank you.
We now rise and join together in our Kiddush. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam, borei peri hagafen. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam, asher kedishanu b'mitzvotav v'ratzavanu. V'shabbat kodsho b'ahava uvratzon hinchilanu. Zicharon lema'aseh v'reishit, ki hu yom techila lemikrae kodesh, זכר ליציאת מצרים. כי בנו בחרת, ואותנו קידשת מכל העמים. בשבת קודשך באהבה ורצון הנחלתנו. ברוך אתה אדוני מקדש השבת.
Amen. L'chaim, you may be seated. We're a small but mighty crew in the garden. Many more I know tuning in. And alas, we're cantorless tonight. So it means everybody has to sing twice as loud as we welcome in Shabbat and rejoice. Shir Ladonai, Shir Chadash. Let us sing out to God with a new song. Shiru Ladonai, kol haaretz. Shiru Ladonai, Shir Chadash. Shiru Ladonai, kol haaretz. Shiru Ladonai, Shir Chadash. Sing unto God all the earth a new song. I will sing unto God a new song. Sing unto God and well I'll sing along. All the earth a new song unto God. Shiru Ladonai, kol haaretz. Shiru Ladonai, Shir Chadash. Sing unto God a new song. Yismachu hashamayim, v'tagel haaretz. Yismachu hashamayim, v'tagel haaretz. Yiram hayamim lo, Yiram hayamim lo, Yiram hayamim lo, Yiram hayamim lo. Yismachu hashamayim, v'tagel haaretz. Yismachu hashamayim, v'tagel haaretz. As we prepare to welcome in the Shabbat bride, our minds, our hearts have been this week in Jerusalem. And so we sing this melody, which the cantor introduced, or maybe reintroduced a couple of weeks ago, which I learned at a shul in Jerusalem called Kol HaNeshama. It's very catchy. If you don't know it, you'll pick it up quickly. Sing, clap, tap along as we welcome in the Sabbath bride. Lecha dodi likrat kala yanadai 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 pnei Shabbat nekabela. Lecha dodi likrat kala yanadai 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 pnei Shabbat nekabela. Shamar v'zachor v'tibor hachad Hishmi'anu el ha'meyuchad Adonai echad u'shmo echad
Shabbat nekabela. Lecha dodi likrat kala yaladai yaladai yaladai. Ne Shabbat nekabela. Likrat Shabbat lechu v'anocha. Ki makor haberacha. Meirosh mikadem nesucha. Sof ma'aseh b'machshavat tchila. Lecha dodi likrat kala yaladai yaladai yaladai. Ne Shabbat nekabela. Lecha dodi likrat kala yaladai yaladai yaladai. Ne Shabbat nekabela. Hitorari, hitorari, kiva orech kumi ori, uri, uri, shir dabari, kavod Adonai, alayich nigla, lecha dodi likrat kala yaladai yaladai yaladai. Ne Shabbat nekabela. Lecha dodi likrat kala yaladai yaladai yaladai. Ne Shabbat nekabela. Oiv hashalom ateret b'ha'ala. Gam b'simcha ub'tzola. Toch hamunei am segula. Boi chala, boi chala. Lecha dodi likrat kala yaladai yaladai yaladai. Ne Shabbat nekabela. Lecha dodi likrat kala yaladai yaladai yaladai. Ne Shabbat nekabela.
As is our tradition, now that we have welcomed Shabbat, we take a moment to welcome one another, either to wave across to somebody in the garden that you haven't seen in a while. And if you're joining us on Facebook and live stream, we invite you to write in the chat to say Shabbat Shalom and to greet one another that way.
Hugs are very heartwarming.
The schmoozing can go on forever, but we join together and continue our service with the call to worship, the Baruch Hu.
We rise, but night. Night becomes day. Day turns to night. Roll into dark. Roll into light. Night becomes day. Day turns to night. Borayom balayla. Golelor mipnei choshech. Golelor mipnei choshech. Vechoshech mipnei or. Roll into dark, roll into light. Night becomes day, day turns to night. Roll into dark, roll into light. Night becomes day, day turns to night. Shema Yisrael Adonai Eloheinu Adonai Echad. 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 Baruch Shem Kavod Malchuto Le'olam Ba'ed. Baruch Shem Kavod Malchuto Le'olam Ba'ed.
Ve'ahavta et Adonai Elohecha b'chol levavcha u'v'chol nafshecha u'v'chol me'odecha v'hayu advarim ha'ele asher anochi metzavecha hayom al levavecha v'shinantam levanecha v'dibarta bam בשבתך בביתך ובלכתך בדרך ובשוכבך ובקומך וקשרתם לאות על ידך והיו לטוטפות בין עיניך וכתבתם על מזוזות ביתך ובשעריך למען תזכרו ועשיתם את כל מצוותיי והייתם קדושים לאלוהיכם. אני אדוני אלוהיכם אשר הוצאתי אתכם מארץ מצרים להיות לכם לאלוהים. אני אדוני אלוהיכם.
Adonai Elohechem Emet.
Earlier this year, we had the moment in Torah where we read the Micha Mocha, we read Shirat Hayam, and we worked our way to Sinai and receiving the Ten Commandments. And now in our Jewish calendar, it plays out again as we are moving from Passover to Shavuot. And the truth is, it's not just about these 2 times of year that is Torah and our calendar, because these are themes that are in our liturgy daily, moving from creation to redemption and revelation. And ultimately what it means is that our story, our narrative is ever unfolding, and that we are a part of it in creating these moments of freedom and of revelation, of being free, and of being a part of something that is covenantal and communal. So we join together in our Micha Mocha.
Yai lai, yai lai lai lai, yai lai, yai lai lai lai, yai lai, yai lai lai lai, yai lai 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 lai.
we offer this poem by Yehuda Amichai called Wild Peace. Not the peace of a ceasefire, not even the vision of the wolf and the lamb, but rather, as in the heart when the excitement is over and you can talk only of a great weariness, I know how to kill that makes me an adult. And my son plays with a toy gun that knows how to open and close its eyes and say, Mama. A peace without the big noise of beating swords into plowshares, without words, without the thud of the heavy rubber stamp. Let it be. Light, floating, like lazy white foam. A little rest for the wounds. Who speaks of healing? And the howl of the orphans is passed from one generation to the next, as in a relay race. The baton never falls. Let it come like wildflowers, suddenly, because the field must have it, wild peace.
Baruch atah Adonai haporei sukat shalom. Shalom aleinu ve'al kol amo Yisrael. Baruch atah Adonai haporei sukat shalom. Shalom aleinu ve'al kol amo Yisrael. Ve'al Yerushalayim ve'al kol amo. Ve'al Yerushalayim shalom. Ve'al Yerushalayim ve'al kol amo. Ve'al Yerushalayim shalom. Baruch atah Adonai haporei sukat shalom. Shalom aleinu ve'al kol amo Yisrael. Shalom aleinu ve'al kol amo
We rise either in body or in spirit for our tefillah. We'll sing together the opening line and then take a few minutes for each of us to continue with the prayers of our own hearts.
Adonai, Sefatai Tifta. Shalom Rav al Yisrael Amcha Tasim Leolam. Shalom Rav al Yisrael Amcha Tasim Leolam. Ki atahu malach Adon Lachol HaShalom. Ki atahu melech Adon Lachol HaShalom. Shalom Rav al Yisrael Amcha Tasim Leolam. Shalom Rav al Yisrael Amcha Tasim Leolam. V'tov be'einacha levarech et Amcha Yisrael. V'chol עת ובכל שעה בשלומך. Shalom Rav al Yisrael Amcha Tasim Leolam. Shalom Rav al Yisrael Amcha Tasim Leolam. Tasim Leolam. Tasim Leolam.
You may be seated. See if I can get through my drush without losing all the pages scattered across. Shalom Rav, a great peace and enveloping peace. Oh, how Israel needs this prayer, this peace right now. Like so many of you, I'm sure I've been glued both to the news all week, but also my social media feeds, trying to stay connected to many relatives, friends, colleagues in Israel. And I want to share 3 quick images from the past few days from the folks in my inner circle there. The first, from my cousin Barak, who lives in Tel Aviv with his wife and 2 young children. Though he's technically my second cousin, I don't have any first cousins. So he's the closest I've had beyond my brother growing up. The last few days, we've been furiously WhatsApping back and forth. I ask, how's he holding up? How are the children doing? Are they going to school? And knowing that they live in a slightly older, small Tel Aviv apartment, wondering what they do each time the siren goes off, especially with their 2 little ones. And when I asked all this the other night, he immediately sent me back a photo of him with the 2 kids in the stairwell. The children were bleary-eyed. Clearly, they'd been woken up at some ungodly hour. He explained that when the rockets and the sirens are persistent over and over again, they take them down the few flights of stairs and there is a proper safe room in their lobby. But to just schlep them for the one siren, it's not always worth it. So they cuddle up in the stairwell. And somehow, despite the obvious anxiety, the sleep deprivation, my cousin Barak is still smiling big at me in the photo. My heart, of course, is heavy as I see it. Number 2, my dear family friend, Rena. Close friend of my dad's, a dual citizen who splits her time between New Jersey and Israel. But since the pandemic has been pretty much permanently holed up just up the shore from my cousin Barak in a little apartment that she built in Old Jaffa. She is a legal and political translator by day, but an incredible chef by night. And I look forward to each week, usually posts these mouth-watering photos of the dishes she's prepared, of the challah that she's baked, of the fresh hummus that she's churned. And she often reflects on where she gets the ingredients for all of these delicious dishes. She talks about the unique joys of living in Jaffa and Yafo, of getting to walk down the street to the fresh fruit market or the fish man that she frequents every morning. And in almost every case, all of these individuals are Arabs that she is buying from, that she is hosted by in the cafe. And these Israeli Arab neighbors have all felt like friends. There's been a kinship and a safety that she expresses all the time until yesterday, when Arab rioters lynched an Israeli soldier just a few blocks from her home. And yet, even as she wrote this, following a flood of her terrified Facebook posts, I caught a glimpse of what Rena posted this morning. Her Shabbos spread. Homemade dips, olives, roasted peppers, the works to go with her challah. In her bright and cheery pottery as she always lays it out. But with a hashtag, while we wait. When the sirens start again, she says, we'll take the meal, run into the safe room, and eat it there. Number 3. Can get the page. Moving east a little bit into the suburbs of the sleepy old town of Petach Tikva, where my cousin Barak's Aunt Hannah, my surrogate Israeli Savta, my grandma over there, still lives. She sent an email yesterday to all of our close circle of cousins who had been reaching out, worrying about her being a little elderly, living alone through all this, and describing her own fear and heartache as bombs blanket her beloved country. Her house is small, claustrophobic, one might say, especially if you're a teenager sleeping over there through the years. And it's probably one of the earliest original homes built in the city of Petach Tikva from the early state days. So there is no safe room at all. Hannah says, when the sirens sound, she hunkers down in her windowless bathroom for a while. Hannah is a retired nurse, and she worked closely for many years with Israeli Arabs in the local hospital, right near Lod. Men and women who had become her trusted friends and colleagues. And now she writes, some of them seem to be joining the local riots that are erupting across the country. Those riots more frightening for some Israelis even than the barrage of missiles landing from the air. But in her broken English and her terrible typing, my cousin Hannah ends her note, we survive the other Israeli wars, and we will stay strong and survive this one too. I share these 3 vignettes of 3 very real people whom I love dearly as just a small sample of life in Israel at this moment. No doubt you have them too. It goes without saying that these past few days have been terrifying, heartbreaking, infuriating for those of us who love the Jewish state. Just a few weeks ago, we were sitting here in the garden, tapping our feet, singing Hava Nagila, celebrating Yom HaAtzmaut, Israel Independence Day. And Monday was supposed to be, it was technically Yom Yerushalayim, Jerusalem Day, where we celebrate the reunification of our holy city in 1967. And more than that, really, Israel not only surviving, but thriving since then. A number of congregants have reached out to ask, how did this week's violence escalate so quickly? Where did it come from, seemingly out of nowhere? There are far more sophisticated political analyses I can direct you to. I'm not a reporter, but I can just mention a few of the immediate precipitating factors, Because while it felt like this was all of a sudden, the truth is it didn't come out of nowhere. Unfortunately, over the last several years, Yom Yerushalayim has also become a popular time for right-wing extremists among Israeli Jews to march through the city's Arab quarters, flaunting their victory and taunting their neighbors. That, compounded with the evictions you might have read about of Palestinian residents from their homes in East Jerusalem, of police shutting down Jerusalem's Damascus Gate when teens were trying to gather and celebrate the end of Ramadan, police violence against Muslim worshippers at the Al-Aqsa Mosque, and I must add, a culture of fear-mongering and variety of political moves and policies by Prime Minister Netanyahu over the past few years, ostensibly for the security of Israel, but really, as so many of us see, for his own political security as his coalition hangs in the balance. Despite the seeming suddenness of this week's violence, the truth is it didn't come out of nowhere. And certain factions of Israel's leadership are not blameless for this tragic situation. But let me be crystal clear. While these contributing events and the ongoing suffering of so many Palestinians remove some of the sense of randomness, perhaps, they do not in any way justify this violence. There's no excuse. There's no justification ever for indiscriminate attacks on civilian populations. No parent should have to rouse their child out of bed in their pajamas and drag them into the stairwell or a bomb shelter. No citizen should fear just driving home from a long day's work, literally not sure whether to be more afraid of the rioting on the streets or the missile that might fall from overhead. As Times of Israel editor David Horowitz put it yesterday, Israel is suddenly deep in two wars against a cynical terror state next door and an explosion of murderous intolerance within. And it feels in some ways like an unprecedented moment of existential threat for our brothers and sisters there. And so we weep for the loss of innocent lives among Israelis and Palestinians, especially children whose lives have been cut too short. We grieve as it feels like the prospects of a safe and secure two-state solution feels ever impossible. And yet, we keep praying. We keep working towards peace. Israel's national anthem, which we sang together a few weeks ago here, Hatikva, the hope, reminds us each time we sing it, Od lo avda tikvatenu. We have not, we must not ever give up that hope. You might have noticed in the 3 vignettes that I shared, my cousins, my friends, that despite them all being under attack, each one of them had a hint of hopefulness, of joy. My cousin Barak smiling with his big goofy grin, even cradling his children in the stairwell in the middle of the night. Rena persisting with spreading out a beautiful Shabbat meal, even as she anticipated the next siren going off. And Hannah saying, we've lived through hard things before, we'll do it again. It's the Israeli way. It's the Jewish way. Rabbi Jonathan Sachs once taught that Jews invented hope. For the ancient Greeks, he explained, everything was fate, the future predetermined by the past. But for the Israelites, for Jews, we believed in freedom, rejecting determinism in favor of human agency. As Rabbi Sachs powerfully puts it, the Greeks gave the world the concept of tragedy. Jews gave it the idea of hope. To be a Jew, Sachs wrote, is to be an agent of hope in the world, serially threatened by despair. Every ritual, every element, every syllable of the Jewish story, every law in the Torah is a protest against escapism, resignation, or the blind acceptance of fate. So what could be more fitting a title for Israel's national anthem than Hatikva, the hope? Hope, after all, is what sustained our people through 3,000 years of wandering, expulsion, and eventually our return to our Jewish homeland. I imagine it being passed like a baton across the generations. It was hope that emboldened Abraham to first follow God's command, Lech Lecha, and leave behind everything he knew. It was hope that flickered to Moses from the burning bush, igniting our exodus from Egypt. Hope produced our written Torah in Babylonian exile and transformed Judaism into a portable religion, even as the Romans torched the Second Temple. Through countless inquisitions, expulsions, pogroms, through the horrors of the Holocaust, our ancestors held fast to hope, and it nourished them. So tonight, even as we worry, even as we weep, we affirm our own enduring hope for peace, for the future, for Israel, for our world. In a moment, we'll unwrap this Torah and join our ancestors in the wilderness as we begin the book of Bamidbar, or Numbers in English. And when we uncover the sacred scroll, as we'll do again Sunday night to celebrate Shavuot and reaffirm that moment at Sinai, we always sing these words, Ki mitzion tetzei Torah. From Zion comes forth Torah. Well, especially this week, this beautiful liturgy is not just a hearkening to historic events, it's a spiritual aspiration for the future. Rather than this violence and hatred we see spewing, may our core Torah values, may justice and compassion and peace once more pour forth from the land of Israel. Ken Yehi Ratzon, may it be so and may it be soon. Ki mitzion tetzei Torah, Ki mitzion tetzei Torah, Unevar Adonai, Be'Yerushalayim, Baruch Shenatan, Torah, Torah, Baruch Shenatan, Torah, Torah, L'Amo Yisrael, B'Kedushato. You may be seated.
One of the things that I love about a new book of Torah is that it's very visible. Here in the scroll, there is a space between each book. And so as we go from the book of Leviticus and we head into Bamidbar, into the wilderness, as we count, which is where we get the idea of numbers, we bring all of our community into that space. So on behalf of our community, not just those who are here in the garden, all of those who are on the live stream, and truly our whole covenantal community of Larchmont Temple, we join together in the blessing before Torah. Baruch hu et Adonai hamvorach,
Baruch Adonai Hamorach Le'olam Va'ed.
Baruch Adonai hamvorach le'olam va'ed. Baruch ata Adonai Eloheinu melech ha'olam, asher bachar banu mikol ha'amim, v'natan lanu et Torato. Baruch ata Adonai noten ha'torah. V'yidaber Adonai el Moshe b'midbar Sinai be'ohel moed b'echad chodesh hasheni b'shana hashenit litzeitam me'eretz Mitzrayim lemor se'u et rosh kol adat b'nei Yisrael lemishpachotam leveit avutam במספר שמות כל זכר לגולגלותם. מבין 20 שנה ומעלה כל יוצאי צבא בישראל תפקדו אותם לצבאותם אתה ואהרון ועדכם יהיו איש איש למטה איש ראש לבית אבותיו Oh, I missed that. Join together. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam asher natan lanu Torah emet b'chayei olam nata b'tochenu Baruch atah Adonai noten haTorah. Doesn't roll away. As we have our sacred scroll open, we offer our prayer for healing. We hold in our hearts all of those who are affected by the violence in Israel, not just those who are in need of physical healing from injury, but also those who are in need of emotional healing, those near and far who are grappling with this moment. Mishaberach avotenu v'imotenu Avraham Yitzchak v'Yaakov Sarah, Rivka, Rachel, Leah, Hu Yavarech et HaCholim. We pray for Enid Elton, Louise Elton, Bonnie Davis, Lori Weinberg, David Goldstein, Stanley Tereski, Bob Glassman, Marty Feldner, Andy Rosenthal, Patricia Zapata, Avram Yochanan Dov-Lesser, Louis Siegel, Nate Moskowitz, Ari Fox, Keith Schoen, Barbara Peabody, June Foreman, Paul Wiggins, Jody Kahn, Joseph Spinelli, Lawrence Cohen, Susie Wolfson, Antonia Ciapola, Harriet Katz, Pat Ryan, Samuel Phillip, Jerry Golner, Ian Spear, Norton Blumberg, Terry Rossman, Julie Ross, Deb Margolin, Paul Stampelman, Scott Siegel, Greg Kellner, Daniel Foley, and George Simonoff. If anyone has a name that they'd like to add in hopes of healing, I invite you to do so aloud at this time.
We pray together. Avotenu Mekor Abracha Ahimotenu. May the source of strength who bless the ones before us help us find the courage to make our lives a blessing and let us say Amen. Mishabera Flimotenu Mekor Abracha Lehavotenu. Bless those in need of healing with refuah shlema, the renewal of body, the renewal of spirit, and let us say Amen.
We rise as we return our Torah.
Eitz Chaim Hila B'chazikim Ba V'Tovcha Meushar Derachel Derchenu V'chol Tivotah Shalom.
we remain standing for a moment for the counting of the Omer. And the Omer is something that we have been counting from Passover to Shavuot. It is sort of a thing that gets us physically there, spiritually there. And so tonight we count the 48th day of the Omer. I'll offer the blessing, and then we will count. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam, asher kidishanu b'mitzvotav v'tzivanu al sfirat ha'omer.
Amen.
Amen. Hayom shmona ve'arba'im yom shehem shisha shavuot v'shisha yamim la'omer. Today is the 48th day of the Omer, which counts 6 weeks and 6 days of the Omer. And we find ourselves in the spherotic realm of Yesod Shebemalchut, the foundations of majesty. And Rabbi Haviva Ner David says, as the Omer counting approaches completion, we remind ourselves to listen to our heart, honor the voice of our soul, and recognize that we are on this journey together, doing the best that we can. We cannot force others to do the work, but we can see their wholeness and listen to their story. Cultivating our own inner peace and supporting others in doing the same is perhaps the best thing we can do to bring a greater peace to this troubled world. And as we think of all of that in our hearts, we continue with Aleinu.
Sinai is so close, I can almost taste the cheesecake. Aleinu l'shabeach l'adon hakol, l'tikdu l'yotzer breshit, shelo asanu k'goyei ha'aratzot, ולהסמנו כמשפחת האדמה, שלא שם חלקנו כהם, וגורלנו ככל המונם, ואנחנו קוראים ומשתחווים ומודים לפני מלך מלכי המלכים, הקדוש ברוך הוא. ונאמר בחי אדוני למלך על כל הארץ ביום ההוא יהיה אדוני אחד ושמו אחד. You may be seated or remain standing for a moment as you wish. As we prepare for our moment of memory of Mourner's Kaddish, one more Yehuda Amichai poem. May I rest in peace. I who am still living say, may I have peace in the rest of my life. I want peace right now while I'm still alive. I don't want to wait like that pious man who wished for one leg of the golden chair of paradise. I want a 4-legged chair, 8 here, a plain wooden chair. I want the rest of my peace now. I have lived out my life in wars of every kind, battles without and within, close combat face to face, the faces always. My own, my lover face, my enemy face, wars with old weapons, sticks and stones, blunt axe, words, dulled ripping knife, love and hate, and wars with newfangled weapons, machine gun, missile, words, landmine lines exploding, love and hate. I don't want to fulfill my parents' prophecy that life is war. I want peace with all my body and all my soul. Rest me in peace. As we prepare to share in words of Kaddish, we especially call to mind those whom we have laid down to their final resting place in the past 30 days, for whom a period of Shloshim is being observed. Ben Kaplan, son of Barbara and Seth of blessed memory, brother of Julia, nephew of Michael and Bonnie Rodney of blessed memory, nephew of Liz and Jack, cousin of Emily, Elizabeth, and Leo. Phyllis Whitner, mother of Lisa and David, grandmother of Michael and Hunter, aunt of Sarah and Ted. Michael Schusteroff, cousin of Nada Glick. Bill Sussman, husband of Jennifer, father of Harry and Matt. Michael Wishner, father of Corey Wishner. Barbara Markson, aunt of Andy Harrison. Nathaniel Reichik, brother of Ruth Barron. Al Barron, husband of Donna, father of Jeff and Amy. Andy Fusco, husband of Judy Nathan, father of Bella and Aaron, brother-in-law of Michael Nathan. And we add to those names so many for whom a yahrzeit is observed this week in our temple family. And remember with reverence Mel Marians, Jesse Hirsch, Julian Turk, Erna Bing, Albert Littman, Saul Wassing, Pearl Lichter, Barbara Kendinger, Louis Easton, Nessa Sternfeld, Doris Shapiro, Bert Israel, Louise Jean Gardner, Esther Bernstein, Jack Browse, Julian Kahn, Samuel I. Goldman, Bernice Bunny Michnek, Bertha Gordon, Harry Adams, Milton Shubin, Natalie Hamburg, Claire Diamond Kaplan, Manuel Lachinsky, Erwin Reiter, Maurice H. Bernstein, Franklin Marks, Shirley Haar, John Kaufman, Rosalind Mann, Max Brooks, Alan Shapiro, Gussie Kaplan, David Gorovich, Samuel Medwick, Ralph Becker, Carol Edelman, Ronald Schleifer, Max Stern, Jules Bretner, Arthur Zeeler, Morris M. Greenwald, Bernard Zucker, James B. Selinek, Bill Serkman, Peter Scott Haig, and Ellis Schwartz. We think, of course, too, those whose lives have been lost in Israel this past week, here in America and around the world from COVID. And I invite you, if you're thinking of someone or saying Kaddish for someone whose name you didn't hear, perhaps they died in recent days, at this season, in years past, or just someone whose name you carry in your heart each and every day, I invite you to share that out loud as well. Zichronam livracha, may the memories of all those we hold dear be a blessing as we rise and join together in these words of Kaddish. Yitgadal v'yitgadash shemei rabbah, ve'almad yivrach yiruteh ve'amlich malchuteh, b'chayachon u'v'yomechon u'v'chayeh dechol beit Yisrael, ba'agala u'vizman kariv v'imru amen. Yehei shmei rabbah mevorach le'olam olmei almayah. Yitbarach v'yishtabach v'yitpa'ar v'yitromam v'yitnaseh v'yithadar v'yitaleh v'yithalal shemei nekudasha barechu le'elam min kol birchata v'shirata tushbachata v'nechemata da'amiran be'alma v'imru amen. Yehei shlama rabba min shemaya v'chayim aleinu v'al kol Yisrael v'imru amen. Oseh shalom b'imromav huya aseh shalom Aleinu ve'al kol Yisrael ve'imru amen. May the one who creates harmony on high bring peace to us, to Israel, to all those who mourn, and to the entire world, as together we say, amen. You may be seated. I want to invite up our board and executive committee member, David, to share some greetings.
Shabbat Shalom. Tomorrow, 9 a.m. on Shabbat is Hevra Torah. 10:30 tomorrow is the Shabbat morning musical minyan. And of course, the bat mitzvah of Alexa Dorf. Mazel tov to her and her family. On Sunday at 7:30 p.m., Erev Shavuot, led by our 10th grade confirmation class, who will be live from the sanctuary, and you can join from home via the live stream. And then on Monday, from 10 a.m. to 11 a.m. is our Torah track. We're going to meet at the entrance to Manor Park to share in prayer, music, meditation, Yizkor, and a Torah text discovery. Hope you'll take part. Shabbat Shalom.
Yeah, I want to add a plug also.
I also just want to say that Sunday is our closing day of Kesher, and it is a joy to see all of our younger learners make it through this year, and so we are marking that as well.
Joyous festivities here in the garden with our little ones. And though the Omer count is coming to an end, Shabbat keeps coming. I just want to make a plug for next Friday night when we will have a wonderful speaker, Nadav Shachmon, who is Westchester County Shaliach from Israel, an emissary who's been living here and teaching the last few years. He was already on the schedule slated as part of our speaker series to share a little bit of his own story. Couldn't be more timely now to have a born and bred Israeli come share with us. So we look forward to that as well. So with hope in our hearts, we sing out our closing song, Od Yavo Shalom Aleinu. We still believe peace will yet come. Od Yavo Shalom Aleinu. Od Yavo Shalom Aleinu. Od Yavo Shalom Aleinu ve'kulam. Od Yavo Shalom Aleinu. Od Yavo Shalom Aleinu. Od Yavo Shalom Aleinu ve'kulam. Salam Aleinu ve'kulam. Salam Shalom. Salam Aleinu ve'kulam. Salam Shalom. Od Yavo Shalom Aleinu. Od Yavo Shalom Aleinu. Od Yavo Shalom Aleinu ve'kulam. Od Yavo Shalom Aleinu. Od Yavo Shalom Aleinu. Od Yavo Shalom Aleinu ve'kulam. Shabbat Shalom and Chag
Shabbat
Shavuot
Shalom.
Sameach.
You're part of this thing next week, right? You're part of this concert.
Thing next weekend.